They insult you, and you feel your blood boil. They betray you, and rage consumes your thoughts. They ignore you, and frustration poisons your day. This is how most people live, slaves to their emotions, reacting to every slight as if it were a mortal wound. But what if I told you that anger is not inevitable? That upset is not a force of nature, but a choice you make? That you can walk through betrayal, disrespect, and loss without a single ripple disturbing your inner calm? Machiavelli understood that true power comes not from controlling others, but from mastering yourself. In a world where everyone seeks to provoke reactions, the man who remains unmoved holds the ultimate advantage. He does not waste energy on fleeting emotions. He channels it into strategy and purpose. Today, you will learn how to eliminate anger and upset from your life entirely. Not by suppressing feelings or pretending they do not exist, but by restructuring your mind so that provocations lose their power over you. By the end, you will possess the mental framework to face any human interaction with unbreakable composure, turning potential conflicts into opportunities for dominance. This is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming untouchable. The transformation begins when you realize that no one can make you angry without your permission. The average person experiences anger or upset multiple times daily. These emotional episodes drain energy, cloud judgment, damage relationships, and create cycles of reactivity that perpetuate more conflict. Each time you allow external circumstances to dictate your internal state, you surrender a piece of your sovereignty to forces beyond your control. This surrender becomes habitual, creating patterns of victimhood disguised as justified outrage. Machiavelli studied power in all its forms, recognizing that the most sustainable power comes from internal sources rather than external validation or control. The prince who depends on others, approval or cooperation for his emotional stability, rules from a position of fundamental weakness. Similarly, the individual whose peace depends on others' behavior lives in constant vulnerability to disruption. The path to emotional invulnerability requires understanding the mechanics of how emotions are created, sustained, and dissolved. Most people believe emotions happen to them, that anger arrives unbidden when circumstances warrant it. This belief system ensures continued emotional slavery because it denies personal agency in the creation of emotional states. The truth is more empowering and more demanding. You are the sole author of your emotional experience. External events provide triggers, but your interpretation of those events determines whether you experience peace or turmoil. This interpretation happens so quickly and automatically that it feels instantaneous with the triggering event, creating the illusion that the event caused the emotion directly. Anger arises not from events themselves, but from your interpretation of those events. This fundamental truth exposes the greatest lie most people tell themselves, that external circumstances directly cause their internal states. The disrespect you experience, the betrayal that wounds you, the criticism that stings, these are merely triggers. Your internal response, your decision to let them affect you, is what generates the emotional turmoil. Understanding this mechanism requires examining the gap between stimulus and response. Between every external event and your emotional reaction lies a space, brief but crucial, where interpretation occurs. In this space, meaning is assigned, significance is determined, and emotional responses are generated. Most people experience this process unconsciously, allowing habitual patterns to dictate their reactions without awareness or choice. The first step toward emotional mastery involves expanding this gap and bringing the interpretation process into conscious awareness. When someone criticizes your work, pause before reacting. Notice the immediate surge of defensive thoughts. They don't understand. They're trying to undermine me. This is unfair. These thoughts, not the criticism itself, generate the emotional response. Alternative interpretations exist for every situation. The criticism might reflect the person's high standards, their own insecurities, their different perspective, or their genuine desire to help you improve. The specific interpretation you choose determines whether you experience anger, curiosity, gratitude, or indifference. This choice, once recognized, becomes a tool for emotional regulation. Machiavelli observed that men are driven primarily by self-interest, often masking their true intentions with words and actions designed to manipulate or provoke. But he also recognized that the wise man does not allow these manipulations to dictate his state of mind. Instead, he views them as data, information about the other person's character, motivations, and strategic position, without attaching personal offense to them. This perspective transforms provocations into intelligence-gathering opportunities. When someone attempts to provoke you, they reveal their assessment of your vulnerabilities, their own emotional state, and their strategic thinking. A composed observer can extract valuable information while the target of provocation learns nothing except that their attempts failed. The redefinition of meaning forms the cornerstone of emotional immunity. When someone ignores your opinion in a meeting, the untrained mind interprets this as a personal attack on your worth, competence, or value. The trained mind sees it as a revelation of their priorities, insecurities, or political maneuvering within the organization. When a colleague undermines your project, the reactive person sees betrayal and injustice. The strategic person sees information about alliances, fears, and opportunities for future positioning. This shift from emotional interpretation to strategic analysis requires deliberate mental conditioning. Begin by questioning every automatic emotional response. When irritation builds, pause and examine the story you are telling yourself about the situation. Are you assuming malice where there might be mere incompetence? Are you projecting your own insecurities onto their actions? Are you interpreting their behavior through the lens of your past wounds rather than present reality? Most anger stems from violated expectations, the gap between how you believe others should behave and how they actually behave. These expectations often remain unconscious until violated, at which point they generate intense emotional reactions. The expectation that colleagues should give credit where due, that friends should keep promises, that family should provide support. These beliefs about how the world should work become sources of perpetual disappointment when reality fails to conform. Machiavelli taught that the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. People will fail you, lie to you, and disappoint you because their circumstances, interests, and pressures change constantly. What seemed important to them yesterday may be irrelevant today. What they promised in one context may become impossible in another. Accepting this as a fundamental law of human nature removes the element of surprise that fuels emotional upset. This acceptance is not cynicism or resignation. It is strategic realism. By releasing the expectation that others must behave according to your standards, you free yourself from the cycle of disappointment and reaction. You become the constant in an unpredictable environment, while others remain variables that can be calculated and managed rather than sources of emotional disruption. The practice requires distinguishing between preferences and expectations. You can prefer that others treat you with respect, keep their commitments, and act with integrity while simultaneously accepting that they may not. This distinction allows you to work toward desired outcomes without being emotionally devastated when those outcomes do not materialize. The physiology of anger follows a predictable pattern: trigger identification, interpretation, physiological arousal, emotional escalation, and behavioral expression. Most people experience this sequence as an unstoppable chain reaction. However, each link in this chain presents an opportunity for intervention. The key is developing the awareness to recognize the process early and the tools to interrupt it effectively. The physiological component of anger serves evolutionary purposes that rarely apply to modern situations. The fight-or-flight response that helped our ancestors survive physical threats now activates in response to social slights, professional setbacks, and interpersonal conflicts. This mismatch between ancient biological programming and contemporary challenges creates unnecessary suffering and ineffective responses. Train yourself to identify the physical precursors of anger: tension in the jaw, tightness in the chest, acceleration of heart rate, changes in breathing pattern, muscle tension in the shoulders and neck, temperature changes in the face and hands. These biological signals precede conscious emotional awareness by several seconds, providing a crucial window for intervention. Deep, controlled breathing immediately counteracts the physiological arousal. The pattern of breathing directly influences the autonomic nervous system, shifting it from sympathetic activation toward parasympathetic calm. Inhale slowly through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale slowly through the mouth for 6 counts. Repeat this pattern until physical arousal subsides. Deliberate physical movement dissipates the accumulated tension and metabolizes the stress hormones released during the initial arousal phase. Walk away from the triggering situation if possible. Stretch the large muscle groups. Engage in brief physical exercise. This movement prevents the physical energy from building into emotional intensity. Mental redirection breaks the cognitive spiral that transforms irritation into rage. Focus attention on neutral facts. Count objects in the room. Recite memorized information. Engage in mental calculations. This cognitive shifting interrupts the rumination that feeds emotional escalation. The practice of emotional detachment forms the cornerstone of Machiavellian emotional mastery. Detachment does not mean indifference to outcomes or abandonment of personal goals. It means separating your sense of identity and self-worth from external events and other people's actions. When someone criticizes your work, their words reflect their perspective, agenda, and emotional state, not an objective assessment of your value or capabilities. True detachment requires understanding the illusory nature of external validation. Others' opinions, while potentially useful as information, hold no power over your intrinsic worth unless you grant them that power. The colleague's dismissal of your ideas reflects their understanding, their biases, and their priorities, not the objective quality of your ideas. Detachment also involves releasing attachment to specific outcomes while maintaining commitment to your values and goals. You can work diligently toward promotion while remaining emotionally neutral about whether you receive it. You can invest fully in relationships while accepting that they may not develop as you hope. This paradoxical combination of engagement and detachment maximizes effectiveness while minimizing emotional vulnerability. Emotional mastery serves as more than personal tranquility. It functions as a powerful strategic advantage in all human interactions. When you never succumb to anger or upset, you deny others the ability to manipulate you through provocation. This immunity to emotional manipulation fundamentally alters the power dynamics in every relationship and situation. Consider how emotional reactions expose strategic vulnerabilities. When you respond angrily, you reveal your pressure points, your priorities, and your fears. The adversary, who knows how to trigger your anger, can manipulate your decisions, derail your focus, and force errors in your judgment. They can predict your responses, plan around your reactions, and use your emotions as leverage against your own interests. The emotional person becomes predictable. They react to criticism with defensiveness, to challenges with aggression, to slights with withdrawal. This predictability allows others to control their behavior indirectly by manipulating the triggering circumstances. The boss who knows which buttons to push can derail an employee's performance during crucial moments. The competitor who understands emotional triggers can force mistakes during negotiations. Conversely, the person who maintains composure under provocation keeps their strategic position hidden while observing others reveal theirs through their emotional outbursts. When others become upset, they expose what matters to them, what threatens them, and how they think. This information becomes valuable intelligence for future interactions. The strategic advantage extends beyond defensive immunity to offensive capability. When you remain calm while others become emotional, you appear stronger, wiser, and more trustworthy by comparison. Their loss of composure elevates your relative position without any direct action on your part. Their emotional display damages their credibility while enhancing yours. This dynamic operates particularly powerfully in group settings. During heated meetings, the person who maintains rational discourse while others argue emotionally emerges as the natural leader. In social conflicts, the individual who remains neutral and composed becomes the one others turn to for guidance and resolution. Your emotional stability creates gravitational pull that draws people toward you when their own emotions become overwhelming. Machiavelli emphasized that successful leaders maintain alliances through calculated mutual benefit rather than emotional attachment. When you eliminate upset from your repertoire, you can evaluate all relationships objectively. A friend's betrayal becomes data about their character and reliability, rather than cause for personal anguish. A partner's criticism becomes information about their needs and concerns, rather than an attack on your worthiness. This objective evaluation enables more effective relationship management. You can maintain productive working relationships with people you do not particularly like. You can collaborate effectively with individuals whose values differ from yours. You can navigate complex social dynamics without getting caught up in personal drama that interferes with your goals. The elimination of emotional reactivity also improves decision-making quality across all areas of life. Anger and upset cloud judgment by narrowing focus to immediate threats and short-term reactions. The emotional mind seeks rapid solutions to end discomfort rather than optimal solutions to achieve objectives. It prioritizes feeling better over performing better. The calm mind possesses superior perception and judgment. When you are not defending against emotional triggers or managing your own arousal, you can process more information, consider more alternatives, and evaluate long-term consequences more accurately. This enhanced cognitive capacity leads to better decisions in every domain: career choices, relationship decisions, financial planning, health management. Pattern recognition improves dramatically when emotional investment decreases. The upset person focuses on individual incidents of poor treatment, missing the broader patterns that would enable better prediction and preparation. The detached observer sees recurring behaviors, identifies underlying motivations, and anticipates future actions based on established patterns. The colleague who consistently takes credit for others' work will continue this pattern until consequences force change. The friend who cancels plans when something better comes along will do so repeatedly, because this reflects their prioritization system. The family member who creates drama during gatherings does so because it serves some psychological need. Recognizing these patterns allows you to adjust your expectations and strategies accordingly. Professional advancement accelerates when emotional control eliminates common career-limiting behaviors. The inability to handle criticism gracefully stunts growth by making feedback sessions ineffective. Defensiveness during performance reviews prevents learning and improvement. Taking workplace conflicts personally damages relationships with colleagues and supervisors. The emotionally controlled professional can receive harsh feedback without defensiveness, collaborate with difficult personalities without personal friction, and maintain productivity under pressure. These capabilities become increasingly valuable as responsibility and stakes increase. Senior positions require the ability to make unpopular decisions, deliver difficult messages, and remain functional during crises. Leadership effectiveness depends heavily on emotional regulation. Teams follow leaders who provide stability during uncertainty, who make rational decisions under pressure, and who remain focused on objectives despite obstacles. The leader who becomes upset during setbacks spreads anxiety and doubt throughout the organization. The leader who maintains composure inspires confidence and trust. The reputation for emotional stability creates its own strategic benefits. People hesitate to provoke someone who never reacts emotionally because such attempts prove futile and often backfire. Word spreads that you cannot be rattled, manipulated through emotional appeals, or derailed by provocation. This reputation changes how others approach you, often eliminating many potential sources of conflict before they arise. Furthermore, emotional immunity allows for more effective communication during difficult conversations. When you are not defending against perceived attacks or managing your own emotional state, you can listen more carefully to understand others' true positions. You can ask clarifying questions without seeming confrontational. You can acknowledge valid points without appearing weak. This clarity of communication accelerates problem solving and builds stronger relationships. The strategic applications extend to negotiation and conflict resolution. The party who remains calm during heated discussions maintains clearer thinking and better judgment about when to compromise, when to hold firm, and when to walk away. They can make offers and counter-offers based on objective value rather than emotional reaction. They can identify win-win solutions that emotional participants miss due to adversarial thinking. The transformation from emotional reactivity to strategic composure requires systematic mental reprogramming. This process involves identifying existing emotional patterns, understanding their origins, and deliberately installing new response mechanisms. The work demands consistent practice over extended periods, but the results compound dramatically over time. Mental reprogramming begins with comprehensive trigger identification. Most people react emotionally to predictable categories of provocation, yet remain unconscious of these patterns until after the emotional episode has occurred. Creating conscious awareness of your trigger patterns provides the foundation for changing them. Develop a detailed inventory of your personal emotional triggers. Notice which types of criticism affect you most strongly. Comments about your intelligence, your appearance, your work quality, your character. Observe which behaviors from others consistently provoke reactions. Being ignored, being interrupted, being contradicted, being excluded. Identify which circumstances increase your vulnerability: fatigue, stress, hunger, illness, relationship problems. The specificity of this inventory matters enormously. Criticism is too general to be useful. Criticism of my ideas during team meetings, especially when delivered dismissively by senior colleagues, provides actionable information. Disrespect lacks precision. Being interrupted while speaking during presentations identifies a specific pattern you can address. For each identified trigger, trace its developmental origins when possible. Understanding why certain provocations affect you helps dissolve their power. Criticism might sting because of harsh parental feedback during childhood. Challenges to authority might enrage because of deep insecurities about competence developed during school experiences. Being ignored might trigger abandonment fears rooted in early relationship patterns. This historical analysis serves therapeutic and strategic purposes. Therapeutically, it helps you understand that your reactions often relate more to past wounds than present circumstances. Strategically, it reveals that your triggers may be irrelevant to current situations and therefore unnecessary sources of vulnerability. The practice of cognitive reframing transforms emotional triggers into strategic information. Instead of experiencing someone's interruption as disrespect requiring emotional response, reframe it as data about their communication style, their relationship to hierarchy, or their comfort with social dynamics. Instead of interpreting a supervisor's harsh feedback as personal attack, view it as information about their management approach, their pressure from above, or their expectations for your development. This reframing requires practice to become automatic. Begin with low-stakes situations where emotions are mild. When stuck in traffic, instead of experiencing frustration, practice seeing it as an opportunity for patience training or additional time for reflection. When waiting in long lines, instead of feeling irritation, use the time for observation of human behavior or mental planning. Develop multiple alternative interpretations for common provocations. The rude customer might be dealing with personal crises, health problems, or their own work stress. The micromanaging supervisor might be under pressure from their boss, lacking confidence in delegation or trying to help you avoid mistakes they have seen others make. The canceling friend might be overwhelmed with responsibilities, dealing with family issues, or struggling with social anxiety. These alternative interpretations do not excuse poor behavior or suggest you should tolerate mistreatment indefinitely. They prevent you from taking others' actions personally and reacting emotionally, allowing you to respond more strategically to protect your interests while maintaining your composure. Mental rehearsal accelerates the reprogramming process by building neural pathways that support new response patterns. Each morning, spend 10 minutes visualizing potential provocations and practicing your desired responses. See yourself remaining calm when criticized, composed when ignored, strategic when challenged. Make these visualizations as detailed and realistic as possible, including the physical sensations of remaining relaxed and the specific words you might use in response. This mental practice serves the same function as physical practice for athletes. It creates muscle memory for emotional responses, making composed reactions more automatic when real situations occur. The brain cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual experiences. So mental rehearsal builds genuine competence. Include challenging scenarios in your mental rehearsal: being publicly criticized, having your ideas stolen, facing false accusations, dealing with betrayal by trusted allies. Practice maintaining composure during these imagined difficulties. The more extreme scenarios you can handle mentally, the easier real-life provocations become. Physical practices support mental reprogramming by teaching your body to handle stress without triggering emotional responses. Regular cardiovascular exercise increases your baseline resilience to physiological arousal by improving your body's ability to process stress hormones efficiently. Your heart rate variability improves, your recovery time decreases, and your threshold for stress-induced reactions increases. Strength training builds physical confidence that reduces defensive reactions. When you feel physically capable, you are less likely to interpret challenges as threats requiring emotional responses. The confidence that comes from physical strength translates into mental resilience, making provocations seem less significant. Meditation develops the fundamental skill underlying all emotional control: the ability to observe thoughts and sensations without being controlled by them. Regular meditation practice creates space between stimulus and response, allowing conscious choice rather than automatic reaction. Start with brief daily sessions focusing on breath awareness, gradually extending the duration as your concentration improves. The practice of evening reflection consolidates daily learning and accelerates skill development. Each night, review instances where emotional reactions occurred or were successfully avoided. Analyze what triggered the reaction, what thoughts preceded it, and what physical sensations you noticed. Identify what worked well and what could be improved. For successful emotional control episodes, reinforce the positive patterns by analyzing exactly what you did differently. Did you pause before responding? Did you reframe the interpretation? Did you use breathing techniques? Understanding your successful strategies helps you replicate them consistently. For unsuccessful episodes where you did become upset, analyze them without self-judgment. What was the trigger? What thoughts escalated the emotion? At what point could you have intervened differently? What alternative interpretations were available? This analysis builds self-awareness and prepares you for similar future situations. Gradual exposure builds emotional immunity systematically without overwhelming your developing capabilities. Start with minor irritations that typically cause mild upset: slow internet connections, traffic delays, long lines, technical difficulties. Practice maintaining equanimity during these low-stakes situations. As you succeed with smaller challenges, progressively tackle more significant provocations. Handle criticism from strangers before addressing feedback from people whose opinions matter to you. Practice with brief interactions before attempting to maintain composure during extended, difficult conversations. Deal with professional conflicts before addressing personal relationship issues. This graduated approach builds confidence and competence without creating overwhelming challenges that could undermine your progress. Each successful experience reinforces your ability to handle stronger provocations, creating positive momentum toward complete emotional immunity. Environmental design supports emotional stability by reducing exposure to unnecessary stressors while you develop your capabilities. Identify situations, locations, and people that consistently trigger emotional reactions, then modify your exposure when possible. While you cannot control all circumstances, you can often choose your timing, preparation, and support systems to maximize your chances of maintaining composure. Schedule important conversations when you are well-rested and mentally prepared. Limit exposure to toxic individuals while you build stronger emotional defenses. Create physical and social environments that support your practice rather than undermine it. Mastery of emotional control extends far beyond personal tranquility to encompass sophisticated applications in complex social, professional, and strategic scenarios. At this advanced level, The absence of emotional reactivity becomes a refined tool for influence, leadership, and systematic advantage across all human interactions. The advanced practitioner develops exceptional social perception abilities. When you are not distracted by your own emotional responses, you can observe subtle signs of stress, insecurity, anger, manipulation, and deception in others with remarkable clarity. Micro-expressions, voice tonality changes, body language shifts, word choice patterns, all become readable data when you are not simultaneously managing your own emotional state. This enhanced perception enables sophisticated influence strategies. You can identify when others are emotionally vulnerable and tailor your communication accordingly. During negotiations, you can detect when pressure is affecting the other party's judgment and adjust your approach to maximize favorable outcomes. In leadership situations, you can recognize when team members are struggling emotionally and provide appropriate support before problems escalate. The ability to read emotional patterns also improves relationship management across all contexts. You learn to recognize the warning signs that indicate when colleagues are becoming overwhelmed, when friends are feeling neglected, when family members are building resentment. Early recognition allows for preventive interventions that maintain relationship health and prevent conflicts from developing. Advanced emotional control includes the strategic deployment of emotions when they serve specific purposes. The goal is not emotional suppression, but emotional choice. Sometimes controlled displays of concern, disappointment, enthusiasm, or determination accomplish objectives more effectively than pure rationality. The key distinction lies in conscious deployment versus unconscious reaction. The advanced practitioner might choose to express measured disappointment about a team member's performance to motivate improvement, while never allowing genuine anger to cloud their judgment about appropriate consequences. They might display controlled enthusiasm about a project to inspire team engagement while maintaining realistic assessments of potential obstacles. This strategic use of emotion requires careful calibration. The displayed emotion must be appropriate to the situation, aligned with your objectives, and within your conscious control. It becomes a communication tool rather than an involuntary response, used purposefully to achieve specific outcomes. In leadership contexts, emotional stability becomes a cornerstone of authority and influence. Teams naturally gravitate toward leaders who remain calm under pressure, make decisions based on logic rather than emotion, and provide stability during uncertain periods. The leader who never gets upset inspires confidence and trust that emotional leaders cannot match. This stability becomes particularly valuable during crises when everyone else is prone to panic, hasty decisions, and blame-seeking behaviors. The composed leader can assess situations objectively, develop rational response strategies, and communicate clearly with all stakeholders. While others waste energy on emotional reactions, the stable leader channels all available resources toward problem solving. Advanced practitioners often discover that their emotional immunity enhances rather than diminishes their capacity for genuine empathy and compassion. When you are not defending against emotional triggers or managing your own arousal, you can genuinely understand others, perspectives, needs, and challenges without becoming emotionally entangled in their problems. This paradoxical relationship between detachment and empathy allows you to provide more effective support to others. You can listen to friends' problems without becoming upset yourself, maintaining the clear thinking necessary to offer helpful advice. You can observe colleagues' struggles with compassion while developing practical solutions rather than simply sharing their emotional distress. The compound effects of long-term emotional mastery extend into virtually every area of life, creating exponential returns on your initial investment in developing these capabilities. Better decision-making leads to better outcomes across career, relationships, health, and personal development. Better outcomes reinforce confidence and composure, making future provocations even less impactful. This creates an upward spiral of increasing effectiveness and decreasing vulnerability. As your track record of good decisions builds, you gain more confidence in your judgment, making you less dependent on external validation. As your relationships improve due to better emotional management, you receive more support and less criticism. As your professional reputation grows, you encounter less hostility and more cooperation. The strategic applications of advanced emotional control extend into sophisticated areas like organizational politics, competitive business environments, and complex social dynamics. You can navigate office politics without getting drawn into unnecessary conflicts, maintain productive relationships across competing factions, and position yourself advantageously without creating enemies. In competitive professional environments, emotional immunity provides sustained advantages. While competitors exhaust themselves in emotional reactions to setbacks, market changes, and interpersonal conflicts, you maintain consistent performance and clear strategic thinking. During high-pressure negotiations, you can evaluate offers objectively, while others make concession decisions based on frustration, anxiety, or time pressure. The mastery of emotional neutrality reveals deeper truths about human nature and social dynamics. You begin to see how much of human conflict stems from emotional reactivity rather than genuine disagreement about important issues. Many workplace disputes, relationship conflicts, and even political disagreements involve people defending ego positions rather than pursuing optimal solutions. This insight enables you to de-escalate conflicts by addressing the underlying emotional dynamics rather than getting caught up in the surface-level arguments. You can validate others' emotional needs while steering conversations toward productive problem-solving. You can find win-win solutions that emotional participants miss due to adversarial thinking patterns. Advanced practitioners often become informal mentors and examples for others struggling with emotional reactivity. Your consistent composure under pressure, your strategic thinking during conflicts, and your immunity to provocation inspire others to develop similar capabilities. This influence spreads your impact beyond your direct sphere of control. The mentoring role requires careful balance between modeling emotional control and maintaining authentic connections with others. People need to see that emotional mastery is achievable by normal human beings, not just by those with unusual temperaments or special circumstances. Sharing your learning process, including past mistakes and ongoing challenges, makes your example more accessible and inspiring. Long-term practice reveals that emotional mastery is not a destination, but a continuously deepening practice. Each challenging situation becomes an opportunity to test and strengthen your capabilities. Each success builds confidence for handling more complex scenarios. Each temporary failure provides information for refining your approach. The practice evolves from conscious effort to natural habit over years of consistent application. What initially requires deliberate mental techniques eventually becomes your natural response to provocative situations. The pause between stimulus and response lengthens automatically. The reframing of interpretations happens unconsciously. The physiological regulation occurs without conscious intervention. This transition from effortful practice to natural habit marks true mastery. You no longer work to control your emotions. You simply do not generate problematic emotional reactions in the first place. Provocations that would have previously triggered intense anger now evoke mild curiosity about the provocateur's motivations. Situations that once caused upset now provide interesting data about human behavior patterns. The advanced practitioner recognizes that emotional mastery serves purposes beyond personal benefit. In a world full of reactive, emotional people, your stability provides a valuable service to everyone around you. You become a calming influence during group tensions, a rational voice during heated discussions, a stable reference point when others feel overwhelmed by circumstances. This service aspect of emotional mastery connects to broader philosophical and ethical considerations. Machiavelli wrote about power and influence, but the ultimate application of these capabilities can serve positive purposes, creating more harmonious relationships, building more effective organizations, contributing to more rational public discourse. The journey toward complete emotional immunity is itself a form of leadership development. As you become less reactive to others' behavior, you naturally assume more responsibility for group dynamics and outcomes. Others begin to look to you for guidance during difficult periods. Your example demonstrates that alternative responses to provocation are possible. The journey from emotional reactivity to strategic composure represents one of the most profound transformations available to human beings. It requires consistent practice, ongoing self-awareness, and unwavering commitment to growth over potentially many years. But the rewards, personal peace, strategic advantage, enhanced relationships, expanded influence, and contributions to social harmony justify every effort invested in this development. Machiavelli understood that external power flows from internal mastery. The prince who could not control his own emotions could never effectively govern others or maintain stable rule. The same principle applies to modern life. The person who masters their emotional responses gains the ability to navigate any situation with strategic advantage and serves as a stabilizing force in an increasingly reactive world. This transformation is not about becoming emotionless, disconnected from human experience, or indifferent to important outcomes. It is about becoming chooseful, selecting your emotional responses based on strategic value and authentic feeling, rather than automatic reactivity. It is about developing the strength to remain centered in chaos, the wisdom to see clearly through provocation, and the power to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. The practice begins immediately with your next interaction, your next potential trigger, your next opportunity to choose composure over reactivity. Each moment offers a chance to apply these principles and strengthen your emotional immunity. Each successful instance builds momentum toward complete mastery. Each temporary failure provides valuable information for refining your approach. Remember the fundamental truth that underlies this entire practice. No one can make you angry without your permission. No one can upset you without your cooperation. No one can disturb your peace without your consent. This is not merely philosophical insight. It is practical truth that, once internalized and consistently applied, transforms every aspect of your life and influences everyone within your sphere of contact. The choice remains yours in every moment. You can continue patterns of reactivity that keep you vulnerable to others, manipulations, and contribute to the general climate of emotional volatility. Or you can embrace the discipline that leads to unshakable composure and serves as a model for more rational human interaction. The transformation starts now, in this moment, with your decision to master yourself rather than be mastered by circumstances. Your future, and your contribution to creating a more stable and rational social environment, depends on this choice. Choose wisely. The world needs more people who can remain calm in chaos, think clearly under pressure, and respond strategically to provocation rather than reactively escalating conflicts. This is the path to true power, not the power to control others, but the power to remain uncontrolled by others. This is the essence of Machiavellian wisdom applied to personal development, achieving invulnerability through internal strength rather than external domination. Begin now. Your practice starts with the very next interaction you encounter.